Nabakishore Sahoo. My channel is English Grammar Icon. This is the second class that I'm just going to introduce myself about the essentials of English grammar. Just to get more information and the notification about my style of teaching and about the various types of things I'm just going to incorporate for you, you just subscribe and hit the bell icon. Today, I'm just going to give you some important details about the voice change. Your voice change is one of the most important or the most fundamental things about the entire English grammar section. And this particular voice change, which we generally know about the making of a voice into two classes, that means the active voice as well as the passive voice. So this active and the passive comes under the verb section. Now first we have to know that what we commonly mean by a verb. So first you have to know about your verb, then various forms of the verb, and under the forms of the verb, your active passive takes a very conspicuous role or important role, and I have to give you some important information about the active and passive one. Let's see what I just going to explain to you. Okay? Hello. Under the verb sections, we have the four important forms of verbs. You first remember. Number one, tense. Number two, aspect. Number three, mood. And number four is the voice. When I tell you about the voice, you always remember that voice comes under the most dominant sections of the verb. If a verb comes under four heads, that means tense, aspect, mood and voice, this voice is of greater importance for you so far as the competitive examinations of today are concerned. Whatever the competitive exams you take today, definitely you have to come upon this voice section, that means changing active into passive voice and passive into active voice. So first we need to know about what is a verb. First, I am going to give you some important information about the verb. Always remember, first you just take down these four forms of the verb. That means from the verb we have the tense, from the verb we have the aspect, from the verb we have the mood, as well as from the verb we have the voice. So now we have to dwell on the verb basically first, because this is of greater importance in our competitive examinations today. So you please note down these four types of forms of the verb. Then I am just going to give you a brief idea about a verb. Okay. Number one, verb. Number two, aspect. Number three, your tense. And number four is the mood. Number three is the mood, and number four is the voice. So four forms of a verb. Number one, tense. Number two, aspect. Number three, mood, and number four, voice. So what is a verb first? Always remember, your verb refers to the word referring to action. Always remember, verb is an action word. That means any word that denotes action is called a verb. If I say the children are laughing, the children are laughing. L-I-U-G-H-I-N-G. If I put a question on the subject, the children is the subject here. If I put a question on the children, what are the children doing? Obviously your answer is are laughing. So are laughing is the verb or the action denoted by the subject, the children. So are laughing is the verbs. Are laughing, verbs. Are is the auxiliary verb and the laughing is the main verbs. So your subject refers to verb and verb is related to the subject. The two basic things of grammar construction is subject and verb. Verb is always related to subject, subject is related to verb. So verb refers to some action. But apart from action, your verb also refers to possession. Your verb also refers to some possession. Possession means your ownership. If I say, father has a new bike. Father has a new bike. So what is the subject here? Subject is the father. So what is that particular word in the sentence which refers to the possession of a father? Obviously has. So has denotes possession. That's why has is the word. Here has refers to possession or has refers to the ownership of the subject father. That is why has is the word. In the sentence number 1, what are the children doing? They are laughing. So are laughing are the verbs. Here has refers to possession or denotes possession. So has is the word. Another important word about the verb. I think that you have noted down these two sentences about the verb and the positions of the verb. Example number 3. In the example number 3, we have also got another verb. Number 1, verb refers to action. In the second sentence, your verb refers to possession. Number 3, if I just write, the children are hungry. The children are hungry. Remember, here are is also a verb. Here are refers to the feeling or state of the subject children. Feeling or state. That means when a word or group of words refer to the feeling or state of the subject, this particular word or the group of words are also the verb. So are is the verb referring to the feeling or state of the children. That means your verb refers to action, refers to possession and refers to state. A verb always tells us something about the subject. Subject is related to the verb, verb is related to the subject. So when we talk about the voice of the verb, we always means the active voice as well as the passive voice. Now we have to know what is active and what is passive. That means how can a verb be active and how can a verb be passive? How can a verb be used actively and how can a verb be used passively? Now, you just ask yourself a very interesting question. If a verb refers to action, if a verb refers to possession, if a verb refers to state or feeling, which verb is related to active and passive? Actually, the verb denoting action. The verb denoting action refers to active and passive. Only the action related verb can be active and passive. Let's show the essentials of active and passive through the example of an action related verb. Suppose an example is there. People eat mangoes in summer. People eat mangoes in summer. So what do the people do? Eat. Eat is the verb. Showing action. Because the action of eating is done by the subject people. So here people do something. So people is the subject. Eat is the verb denoting action. If I simply say people eat in summer, the sentence is incomplete grammatically because there is no particular sense of the meaning in the sentence. So to fulfill the meaning of the sentence, we need another word. And this particular word is called mangoes. Here mangoes is called object. How do you find object? You just put a question. Why do people eat? The answer is mangoes. Why do people eat? The answer is mangoes. So mangoes receive the action. So mangoes is the receiver. If something receives the action, it is called receiver, and this receiver is otherwise known as object. So one thing is clear, if the sentence has a subject, verb and object, it is active. Why is it called active? The sentence is said to be in the active because the subject asks something. So when, you just note down, when the subject acts something, thus it is called active. The sentence is called active. If the subject asks something, it is active. It is active means the sentence is active. So what is this something? This something is the object or this something is the receiver. So always remember, the sentence is said to be in the active when the subject asks something. This something is the object or a receiver. So if the subject asks something, if something is the object or receiver, then what is the other name of subject here? As the subject asks, so the subject is called actor. The subject does something, here the subject is called doer. The subject does something, it is also called agent. So in the active, always remember, your subject is the actor or a doer or agent. And something is the object or a receiver because it receives the action. What is the action? It receives the action of eating. Eating is the verb that refers to action. So it is the verb. Who eat? People eat. People is the subject. What do people eat? The answer is mangoes. Mango is the receiver or object. That is why the sentence is called active. This particular sentence is called active. So to make the sentence active, your object or receiver is compulsory. If there is no receiver, if there is no object, then the sentence cannot be active. In order to make the sentence active, you first put focus on your object. Now the question is, how do we find the object? In order to find the object, you put the question what or whom to the verb. If you put the question what, if you put the question whom, particularly to the action verb, then you get your object. What do people eat? Now you make a question what do the verb eat. You get the object mangoes. Similarly, on other sentences, you can also put the question whom to the verb. You can also get the object or receiver, then the sentence will be active. So always remember, in your active voice, three important grammatical words are important. Number one is the subject, number two is the verb referring to action, and number three is the object or a receiver. If these three grammatical words are there in a sentence, the sentence is always in the active voice. Now I am sure you just get some full-fledged idea about your active construction. In the active, always remember your subject does something or acts something. Something is the object. That is why the sentence is active. Subject, it is the verb denoting action. Mangoes is the receiver or object. That is why the sentence is active. Now, how we have to make the sentence passive? In order to make the sentence passive, always remember what is passive. Passive means when the object or the receiver suffers the action. That means when the subject acts something, it is called active. When the subject is said to have been affected by something, it is called passive. That means in the active, the subject does some action. In the passive, the subject suffers the action. When the subject suffers the action, the sentence is passive. When the subject does the action, the sentence is active. How is it possible? I am just going to tell you. Mangoes here is the object. Now this object becomes the subject. What is this? Mangoes. In the active, mangoes is the object. Now here mangoes becomes the subject. Then it is the present simple tense. Verb in the present simple tense. Now change the present simple tense into passive verb. Are eaten. Here eaten is the past participle or third form of the verb. Mangoes are eaten. People, so people should be changed into by people. That means mangoes are eaten by people. The sentence is called PV. Now again I have to prove it. If I questions what are eaten by people, now you just make a question particular to the verb. What are eaten to the people? What are eaten by people? What are eaten by people? Obviously your answer is mangoes. Here the subject mangoes is not doing something. Rather the subject mangoes suffers the action of eating. When mangoes suffers the action of eating, it is passive. And when the subject acts, it is active. That means in the active, the subject acts. But in the passive, the subject is acted. Or the subject suffers the action. So when the subject suffers the action, that subject is called patient. Because patient always suffers. But in the active, the subject does something. That is why in the active, the subject is called a doctor. Because a doctor always does or treats or does something. So in the active, your subject is the doctor. Because as a doctor, the subject does something. Something is the object. But in the passive, the subject becomes the sufferer. The subject does not do. Rather, something is done to the subject. And the subject is mangoes. What is done to the mangoes? That means mangoes are eaten. The act of eating is being done to mangoes. That is why the sentence is passive. So this is all about my first class today, and I hope that you must have understood the essentials of the active and passive one. You just wait for my next class when I will change the active into passive through some important tense forms and miscellaneous things. That's all for today. My dear children, excuse me please, if you have some doubts regarding the understanding of active and passive, you can send your valuable instruction and the comments, particularly on my teaching. Okay, thanks. Okay, thank you. For more information, you just please see English grammar icon.